Welcome, Pewter Report readers, listeners, and viewers to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius. I am John Ledyard from pewterreport.com. With me today on this Pewter Preview Wednesday for Week 8, Bucs vs. Saints, is Scott Reynolds, also from pewterreport.com. Scott, nice to have you back on a Wednesday show where we're talking about the next matchup. Man, this is exciting to get into a division rival matchup that actually matters. No offense to the Atlanta Falcons.
Exactly. Yeah. The good news is, John, I'm no longer questionable for Sunday. I'm probable.
Right. I'm on the bouncing back strong.
Bouncing back strong. Thank you, zinc and vitamin C and D and Celsius.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's any healing properties in Celsius if you have a cold, but I'm also not denying it either. So,
right. The product does not claim that.
Correct.
But our experience has been that it's beneficial even in this.
And it doesn't hurt. And you know why, John? Because it's got vitamins in it. It's packed with 7 essential vitamins. And vitamins are always a good thing. So draw your own conclusions.
Yeah, for sure.
It also tastes really good too.
Celsius powers active lives every day with essential functional energy, and they are the title sponsor of the Pewter Report podcast. If you don't know, comes in many flavors, one of the greatest of which is Orangesicle. There's no sugar in these things, and there's tons of great stuff, and there's no energy drop-off, and they taste amazing. And Orangesicle is one of the prime flavors right now. And we've got a special deal going on with Orangesicle right now, don't we, Scott, where you can have an opportunity to enter a giveaway to win yourself some Orangesicle.
Yes, if you follow us on Twitter or Facebook, or if you've listened to the Pewter Report podcast on Monday, you heard about this awesome promotion that they have. It's just in time for Halloween, right? It's, you know why? Because there's black and orange on this can. That's smart, Celsius. I like it. Mm-hmm. But listen, Celsius Heat, it's one of my favorite flavors. You like the blueberry pomegranate. I like the Orangesicle. I call it creamsicle sometimes because it reminds me of the Buccaneers' old uniforms. But here's the promotion. You can win a free case of this. It's free. All you have to do is enter, put in your name and email address and hit send. And you do that at Celsius.com/Pewter Report Halloween giveaway. And we'll have that link in the description.
In the YouTube description. Just roll right down there and click it. And
go right or to the page. You've probably seen us mention it on Twitter, Facebook, on our Pewter Report pages there. The contest ends Saturday. It's not even a contest. It's a giveaway. It ends Saturday. So make sure you register to win. They're going to give away 3 winners. They're going to get a case each of this Celsius Heat Orangesicle. And it's really, really good.
Yeah, it's awesome. Orangesicle is probably it's right up there with my favorite flavors. I'm rocking the Peach 5 today, but yeah, I need to win that giveaway so I can get some Orangesicle. That's one a lot of fans haven't tried to eat. So definitely enter that if you can. It's a very quick thing to enter that, and I think you're going to love the flavor. First of all, second of all, helps us out a ton. Third, Celsius, man, great company, great company to support for sure. So we appreciate
no doubt
y'all jumping in there. Nate wants to know if there's a limit of entries. I don't think there is there? We haven't.
I don't know. That's a good question. That's a question for Celsius. Maybe I'll ask about that.
We have never been told about one before for a giveaway.
Right. So you can try to enter more. Yeah, push it and see what happens.
Yeah, that's right. See if it lets you, but go for it for sure. Okay, let's talk about the injury situation. Malcolm, good question to start it off. I'd like to get a really good update on Antonio Brown. I think his injury. I heard he's on crutches. When is he expected to return? Yeah, Matt Matera was out at practice today. Said Antonio Brown had a crutch. There were some pictures going around the internet, some videos of him standing talking to Richard Sherman and Jason Light with a crutch down there. After practice, Bruce Arians was asked about Antonio Brown's injury, and he said that he basically said, who knows with that injury? There's no way of knowing for sure. It could be, right after the bye week when they play Washington, November 14th, or it could be longer. He said, we'll see. I mean, it's a month, Scott, from the time he got hurt till, because of the way the schedule worked with a 10-day break from the Eagles game and then the Saints game and then the bye. It'll be a month from his injury by the time the Washington game comes along. It's an ankle sprain. He said it's affecting his heel too. I reached out to some friends of mine who I know are in this arena and understand some of these types of injuries, sports injuries, work with that kind of stuff. And they basically were like, I have no clue what he's talking about because they didn't know what that meant with a heel, with an ankle sprain.
I think what it might be is like a lower ankle sprain. And
Sure,
you
but
want to
why is that
avoid that.
worse or different than others? I don't know.
I'm not sure. Maybe it might be due to the fact it's closer to the Achilles, so there might be some more pain involved.
I asked about that. They said
Okay.
that would be unusual, but I don't know. Who knows? But anyway, the bottom line is I feel like, yeah, Antonio Brown we'll see. Maybe after the bye week, but the important thing is for right now, he's out for the Saints game. He's not going to play in the Saints game, it sounds like. So he'll might be the only Buck that doesn't, though. A couple others coming back. Levante David practiced today. Rob Gronkowski practiced today. Jamel Dean practiced today. Richard Sherman even gave it a little bit of a go today, I think. Bruce Arians had, I guess, technically what D. Delaney didn't practice, although he was seen out there by reporters dressed and ready to go. So we'll see what that ends up meaning. But who else did he say? And Ndamukong Suh had a sore knee, and JPP didn't practice. He said he thinks Suh's going to be fine. JPP said he talked to the media today. So I'm assuming he's not really, it's the same situation. He's not going to practice and he'll play in the game. So I would say AB might be the only non-IR Buck that doesn't play. We'll see about Sherman. He's still got to get out there and move around a lot today, but it seems like Levante David, Rob Gronkowski going to be back for this game, and Jamel Dean and D. Delaney hopefully will be okay as well. So we'll see.
For sure. No, it's definitely a good sign that they're getting back some of these players. I think that they could probably win without Levante David, without Richard Sherman, without Rob Gronkowski. I like where the Bucs are from a talent perspective and how they're playing. They got to play better on the road. We've talked about that. We'll continue to talk about that. But I just have not been that impressed with the Saints, John. And I know there were some weather conditions on Monday or Sunday night or on Monday night for that game against Seattle. But the defense played well. But look at who they're going up against, Geno Smith. So they got 5 sacks. They got more pressure, which is something that they really needed to do because New Orleans had really struggled in terms of getting to the quarterback this year. They entered that game with only 8 sacks in 5 games, and they got 5 just in that one particular contest. And I think there was some signs of life from Cameron Jordan. He's had a slow start to this year. I think Passanio, the other defensive lineman that they got, has been a big addition. He had a sack in that game, or actually 2 sacks against the Saints. So they're getting some pass rush. Demario Davis had a couple of sacks in that game. I think he's their best player on defense right now. He's been a thorn in the Bucs side, but I still like the Buccaneers, especially if Levante and Gronk come back. Those 2 guys alone can make a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. And today we'll spend our time talking about the Bucs defense against the Saints offense and what that matchup's going to look like. Tomorrow on the show, Matt Matera and I will be talking about the Bucs offense against the Saints defense. So today you'll hear a lot more about the Jameis Winston side of things and the saga that's happening there. And I just want to start with Winston and kind of what he is right now, because Bucs fans, I think, are looking at the box score and expecting to see a lot of picks and not seeing a lot of picks. And so it's leading to some conclusions like this. Matthew Sand says, Jameis has actually done well this year about turnovers. He should have gotten his vision fixed years ago. His time in Tampa may have been different. I don't know if that's tongue in cheek or not, Matthew, but I don't think his vision was the issue at all, really, in Tampa. It was really decision-making. What's happening now in New Orleans is you're getting a guy who is throwing the ball less than any other quarterback in the NFL. That never happens at midseason unless a team does not trust the quarterback. So that is the situation in New Orleans. They do not fully trust Jameis. You saw that on a 3rd and 10 run. And more than anything, they trust the scheme that they have in place. They trust the fact that Alvin Kamara in the run game, but is pretty diverse, is going to make their waves. Taysom Hill, when he's healthy, is going to make a few plays. And they have guys that can compete after the catch on a lot of their design screens and things like that. That part, the yak part, we'll get to in a second, hasn't happened. It's a big reason why their offense has struggled a ton this year. But this is a 100% an offense that does not trust their quarterback. It's amazing they're 4-2 given that. We'll talk about why that is in a second, because there's 2 key statistics that are why that's the case. To Jameis's credit, he has kind of bought in on this. He's
become a system quarterback.
He's
bought into the system.
Yeah. He's become very much just a system, whatever he's not been good this season, in my opinion. I'll talk about that a little bit more extensively, but he hasn't killed them in crucial situations. He did take
Right.
some ugly sacks against the Seahawks, but he's avoided bad sacks and he's had great protection. He's held the ball very long, but he's gotten rid of the football. He's thrown it away more often than not, and he's not turned the ball over a ton. In fact, even though I think he has 3 picks, he only has 6 turnover-worthy throws this season too, which is probably a better indication. So, that's like, bottom third of the league, I would say. So he's not putting the ball in harm's way, and the offense isn't asking him to do hardly anything that would require him to put the ball in harm's way either,
Right.
Scott. So it's kind of a both and situation. And it's important to understand that going into a game like this, because I think if they're going to win and want to score more points than they've been scoring in some of these games against better opponents, they're going to have to do that. They were lucky not to have to do that against Green Bay, and they've kind of danced around having to do that. The game they had to do that they got down early in was the Saints game. They had to totally abandon that. And the Panthers game, and the Panthers aren't even good, but the Saints had to get away from that and ask him a lot of him, and that was his worst game of the year. So I'm just curious what happens if the Bucs get out to an early lead.
Yeah, and I think the one thing too, when you look at Jameis, the interesting statistic is just those lack of interceptions. There have been a few plays where he has reverted back to old Jameis. I think the Carolina game was one of those where he had 2 interceptions in that game, but he's only had 3 the entire year. That is a credit to him that he's finally listening to Sean Payton, and maybe he realizes like, hey, I mean. Is you only get so many cracks at a starting job in the NFL before you get labeled as a career backup, right? We've seen it before around the league. Certain guys, Geno Smith is one of those guys. He was a starting quarterback. Now he's nothing but a career backup out there in Seattle. And Jameis Winston, if he fails here and loses the starting job, I think that he is probably going to be a career backup. I mean, you can already see Marcus Mariota, his draft mate in 2015, has got that label now. I doubt that Mariota is ever going to be a starting quarterback in this league again. Time will tell. But Jameis is doing the things necessary to keep the job, but the point production that is lacking, and I think this is really where the Bucs have an edge. If you look back at some of these Bucs Saints games, the Saints have really run up some points on Tampa Bay over the last couple of years. But this year they won 38-3 against Green Bay. They lost 26-7. They beat the Patriots. That was to Carolina. They beat the Patriots 28-13. That was a game where Mac Jones really wasn't getting there quite yet. They lost in overtime to the New York Giants. That was a stinging defeat, 27-21. They beat Washington 33-22. But they only put up 13 points in Seattle in that 13-10 win. And so you've seen some really kind of helter-skelter point production from the Saints, and you just don't know what you're going to get. You're going to get 38 points one week and 7 the next, 28 one week and 21 the next, 33 one week and 13 the next. And you look at Tampa Bay, and there has been some discrepancy there in their point differential, scoring 40.5 points per game at home and just 26 points per game on the road. But it's still 26 points on the road, and they're capable with this offense of erupting on the road. We saw it last year out in Las Vegas, for example. They put up over 40 points. They put up over 40 points in Detroit, again against lesser teams. But John, they also laid up 30. Part of that was short fields because of some takeaways on defense. But I think that they can crack the code with Dennis Allen, and I think the Saints don't have the firepower to really match what Tom Brady and this offense can do if they're rolling.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to be the key on the other side. Can the Saints defense keep? I mean, without a great Saints defensive performance, this is not happening for the Saints.
Right.
And I think they know that. And their defense, I'm sure, is amped about that. And we'll talk about that a lot tomorrow, because I think that's going to be huge matchup in this game, obviously. Without that defense, they aren't where they are this season. That defense has played really well. But I do think there's 2 things. Appreciate the $5 super chat, William Butler. AB was seen with the crutch. Bruce said maybe after the Washington game. Yeah, if you go back to the beginning of this show, we addressed that and we talked a little bit about AB and things like that. I do think there's 2 things that have really helped the Saints this season that Breeze didn't provide. Actually, yeah, I'll say there's 2 things that have really helped them that Breeze didn't provide this season that Jameis brings to the table enough of anyway.
Right.
The ability to throw the ball deep. They are at the bottom of the NFL in 20+ yard passing plays. They are dead last.
And he has the arm to do it, where Drew Brees
and I'm
didn't.
not talking about 20-yard air yard. I'm talking about just 20-yard gains. They
Even
can throw it
catch and
underneath
runs.
and
Right.
yes, catch and runs. So they're not creating explosive plays, but
Right.
they have 4 40-plus yard pass plays. So that's as long as their defense is great and they can hit like one of those 40-plus yarders, especially if it's for a touchdown, which it often is, that's huge for them. So I think that's one thing. They have the ability to hit 40-yarders, the big field flipping, put you in position in one play type of plays that they didn't have with Drew Brees last year. The other thing is Jameis Winston is although I think he's probably average to below average as a quarterback, as a passer, with his legs, he's doing a great job this season. He's been very helpful to this offense with what he can create, just getting outside of the pocket some. He's not a great thrower outside of the pocket, but also just being able to scramble and pick up yards with his legs. I mean, it's helped his PFF grade, the ability to do that, and it's helped the offense a lot too.
Great point, John. He had an 18-yard run against Seattle. was a key play in that game. He's averaging 4.5 yards per carry. He's been a scrambler in Tampa, and that has continued. And so there's a little bit less reliance on Alvin Kamara. I think Kamara has been better as a receiver this year than he has as a runner. He's still capable of going off for 100 yards in any particular game. But when you look at we'll talk about Kamara in a minute, but you look at the passing statistics, staying on Winston for a second. Marquez Callaway averaging 15.9 yards per catch, 3 touchdowns. He's got a 58-yarder, right? So he's one of those guys that can get down the field. I think that might have been on the Hail Mary play against Washington. Deontay Harris is another guy that has hurt the Bucs in the special teams game, but also as a receiver now. He's got a 72-yarder. To his credit, 19.7-yard average, 2 touchdowns. And, Troutman, the tight end, he's not been nearly as dynamic as Jimmy Graham and some of the other Saints tight ends that they've had in the past, but he's got 9 catches, 100 yards. They're missing Michael Thomas to pick up the chains and be that kind of intermediate weapon, that possession guy. And I think they've had to really lean on Alvin Kamara even more in that to fill that void. And Kamara, to his credit, and you saw over 100 yards, John, against Seattle on Sunday night, just really was really the primary receiver. And he's got 25 catches this year, 33 targets to lead the Saints, 241 yards. He's almost the leading receiver on this team, averaging 9.6 yards per catch, 4 touchdowns on the season.
Yeah, and when you get into this offense, the one thing you're like, the Saints have to be able to run the ball to win this game. And that's probably true, but they really have not run the ball that well this season. Right. It's even really no matter what metric you look at, even if you look at basic box score stats or anything, they just haven't been a great rushing offense this year, and that is due to a couple of things. I think teams are probably daring them to throw the football. They want the game in Jameis's hands because they think if that happens, it'll go the way of that Panthers game where everybody probably thought it going into the year, and then right away early in the year, boom, that game was the blueprint. Get the ball in Jameis's hands, get up and at least stop the run, force the Saints off that game plan, make him be their number one guy, and good things are going to happen for us. And that's what kind of teams have been trying to do with the Saints, but because they can't get that early lead on this defense, they haven't necessarily been able to take the Saints out of that rhythm. Obviously, the Saints are, averaging to 17th in points per game, but in yards per game, they're 29th in the NFL. They're getting a lot of short fields due to special teams and 10 turnovers that the defense is forced. It's helped them a ton. Passing yards per game, they're 31st in the NFL, just 176 passing yards in the year of our Lord 2021. That is amazing that they are 4-2 with a shot to be 5-2 going into that midseason point. Yeah. So there are things with this offense that just I feel like have to improve if they're going to be a real contender. You know what I mean?
And you mentioned a key term there, special teams, and that's an area that Bruce Arians has really harped on, and that's one of the reasons why the Bucs have had to dedicate so much to special teams this year, getting guys like Britt and Stewart to help out in coverage. I think Rashad Robinson's been a fantastic pickup. Yeah, he made a great play as a gunner against the Bears. Obviously, Jalen Darden with a 43-yard punt return, longest punt return in the NFL this year, replacing Jaden Mickens on Sunday. And I think that's an area that the Saints have had some mastery over the Buccaneers, not just kicking and punting, but also returns and covering. And that has allowed the Saints offense to be the beneficiary of some of those shorter fields and not putting as much stress on Winston and Kamara to have to drive 80 yards. Maybe you're driving 60 yards for a touchdown or a field goal. Maybe you're driving 50. And that's made a big difference because the statistics, like you said, are weird, John. 29th in total yardage, but yet they're the best team inside the red zone, right? So when they get down there, they're cashing in on it. They're making the most of their opportunities.
Yeah, typically those statistics like red zone and third down are more fluid and more statistics, more like yardage and passing yardage, especially now that we have 7 games, or I guess the Saints only have 6 games, I should say.
Yeah.
They did have their bye week, so it's not going to throw off the averages, but I'll throw off the totals. I'm reading you averages here, and I'm talking about average yards per game, average passing yards per game. Like these are just things they haven't really, I mean, they're scoring on 31% of their drives right now. It's 25th in the NFL. There really is not a consistent approach to anything offensively. They have find it on a one drive where we can run the ball, just find it enough on one drive where we get enough, or Winston goes deep and hits one off play action. I mean, somebody said it earlier in the chat. They said Winston is basically checking it down to Kamara on one of those option routes, or he's throwing it deep off play action. And that's about as simple a summary as you can get on a quarterback. That's literally what it is. I mean, that's no joke. I mean, outside, if you took play action away from this offense, and they only do it at a rate that's 22nd in the NFL, I think their passing game is nothing. I mean, it's already the bottom of the league, but that just completely kills it. So those are the two things I think you have to be able to be disciplined in those situations, and obviously watch out for a trick play too. I don't know what Taysom Hill's status is going to be for this week, Scott, but that's a fascinating one to watch because
I was just thinking about that. It really does. And you know what? It can also change their passing game too, John, because remember that trick play where they brought Jameis Winston into the game along with Drew Brees, and Winston ended up as like an end around. Then he threw it down to Traquan Smith, wide open for a touchdown. It was a gimmick play, but it worked for a touchdown. If Taysom Hill is available for this game, you might see both of those quarterbacks in there, and you might see that particular play with Taysom Hill throwing the ball, right, as a little bit of a wrinkle. I could see Sean Payton reconfiguring that play and doing the same concept, just different personnel usage, and making a play there. Nate Pitts has got a great point. If the Bucs can put Winston into hero mode, we'll be fine. And I think that's what Todd Bowles and Bruce Arians are going to talk about. And I say Bruce Arians because he knows Jameis as well as anybody, having coached him for 2019. You want to get Jameis into those bad habits, right? Pressure, disguising coverages, taking away Alvin Kamara. And I think that's the biggest thing, is if they can do some things to really negate it. I think a lot of the pressure is going to fall on Devin White. That's the matchup that Todd Bowles has chosen to go with in most cases, John. And usually Devin White, being an LSU grad, being a Louisiana native, loves playing in the Superdome. He's had some of his better games there, including that NFC divisional playoff win, 30-20, where he had a big interception, a big fumble recovery. And that
was like one of the best linebacker games I've ever seen.
It was,
and probably the week 9 game is probably one of the worst I've ever seen.
That's right.
Against the Saints, he's run the gamut for sure.
No, you're exactly right. And I think that if they can really take away Kamara as that receiver, and we've seen him on the screens, I would expect a lot of screen game, because you know that they're going to be trying to get JPP and Shaq upfield to really put pressure on Winston. And I think too, if you're going to be using Devin White as that coverage guy on Alvin Kamara, playing some cat coverage, right? Wherever that cat goes, you got him covered. And if they're going to do that, that's going to take away Devin White's ability to blitz up the middle and try to get some pressure in Winston's face. So I think maybe having Levante David back, maybe they switch roles for a play or two and they still blitz Devin White up the middle, maybe on some third downs, some obvious passing downs, and have Levante David kind of spy and have the keys to the coverage for Kamara on a play or two, or maybe Jordan Whitehead lined up at closer to the line of scrimmage as a strong safety. But I think that if they can corral Kamara, hold him to 50 yards or less on the ground and 60 yards or less through the air, not have him have a Superman type game, I think they got a very good chance of winning, John.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny, all the stars on these two teams' offenses over the years, Scott, yet if you look at pretty much every offensive player on both sides of the ball when these two teams play, their numbers against each other just are terrible. Like compared, like Mike Evans' numbers against the Saints, especially since Arians arrived, since the current regimes, like both defenses, even when there's been points scored in the matchups, they've been way more the result of the defenses creating turnovers and putting. And Bruce Arians said that today, but the turnovers have been the difference. The Bucs turned it over in the 2 regular season games. Saints turned it over in the playoffs. Whoever won the turnover battle won, and that's pretty much what it's been because both defenses have done better against opposing. The Saints have gotten production off plays, trick plays, whether it was in the playoffs. Remember, they had the big gain on the like orbit motion screen in week 1 against the Bucs. They had a big gain. There were penalties in that game. The teams moved the football. But in terms of individual players producing at a high level, this game is one of those ones where you're going to want to bet the unders on all the player stat lines based on what we've talked about and what the history of this game is. And Scott, if you're going to do that and you're going to bet those player unders, the place to do it is over at Underdog Fantasy.
That's right.
Big pick'ems over there. Unbelievable. You can select over under on player stat lines. I'm doing it probably way too often for NBA games each night. I have not won for a couple days in a row, but tonight it changes.
Your Underdog Fantasy's favorite customer, John.
I mean, I might be at this point, but to get a pick 2 correct, you can triple your money. And if you get a pick 5 correct, so you pick 5 player stat lines over or under, and you can mix and match, by the way. You can mix and match NBA, MLB, NFL. Like you can mix and match all of them to get to pick 5. If you get a pick 5 correct, you win 20 times the amount of money that you put in. So it's simple. Go to underdogfantasy.com or download their app, sign up with the code PEWTER, PEWTER, and you can build one of those pick'ems in seconds. And if you haven't signed up yet with that promo code PEWTER, PEWTER, they're going to give you a free $10 when you sign up. So all you have to do is sign up, make your first deposit, and you don't even have to use that money. You can just use that $10. But trust me, it's so much fun, and it is a little bit easier to win than you think. Despite my last 4 days, I won a lot before that, and so it's pretty fun. And so if you dump in there, I think you'll find it's a really good product and a really easy site to use. That's what I really like. It's
super easy, great mobile app. It's
right.
Really
the app is great too. Yeah. So check that out. Promo code PEWTER, PEWTER. We got the injury report, Scott, don't we?
Yep, we do.
Okay. What's it say? What's it say about the Saints? Let's start there.
I'm pulling it up right now.
I actually have it up. I thought.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, Deontay Harris did not participate. That's a big one. His hamstring is going to be a question. We're going to see kind of how that proceeds throughout the week. But Taysom Hill also did not participate with a concussion. I'm guessing that he'll try to like work his way back into the swing of things this week. Yeah. But the fact that he didn't participate on Wednesday, remember, you need a certain number of days to get out of the protocol. Just remember Winfield last week. So tomorrow will be a big day for him.
I mean, unless you're Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, well, he never entered the first. Yeah, but yes.
Just saying.
That's right. Anders Pete, the left guard for the Saints, is going to be out for the season. Actually, he didn't participate in practice. They haven't put him on IR.
He got hurt on Monday night.
Yeah, but it sounds like that he'll be out. And then Peyton Turner has been battling that calf, their first-round rookie that they took right ahead of Joe Tryon-Shoyinka.
Right.
He's been kind of in and out. He did not participate today. And then Dwayne Washington, a backup running back, didn't participate. And Marshawn Lattimore is a hand injury, but he was a full participant. And then for the Bucs, mentioned Sue didn't participate. Richard Sherman was a limited participant. Yeah. Mentioned JPP did not participate. Sue and JPP both expected to play. Nothing serious there. Well, JPP just the same old. Anthony Nelson was on there with an elbow, but he fully participated. OJ Howard, that ankle, he was still a limited participant. Gronkowski technically listed as limited participant. Yeah. D. Delaney was out there. Reporters saw him, but technically did not participate, they're saying. Right. Jamel Dean was a full participant, shoulder and thumb. Full participant. Levante David limited. Antonio Brown did not participate. And Giovanni Bernard back on there with that chest injury was a full participant. So that's your injury report rundown for this game. And I was going to say about stars in this game, Scott, I think having Levante David back is so big because of the Alvin Kamara factor. He really just has not played that great against the Bucs statistically. When you look at his numbers, he's had a couple runs here and there that have made things good, but he's not had any type of breakout games. In the last 4 meetings under Todd Bowles, I should say 5 if I count the playoffs. He had 85 yards in the playoff game, actually. I think that's been hard to remember because I think a chunk of it came on one carry. But it was not a big, impactful performance by him, only 20 yards receiving. They've either usually stopped him in one way or the other. Even in the big loss in week 9 last year, 9 carries, 40 yards, and he had 5 catches for 9 yards. He just didn't do much. Week 1, he had the 5 catches for 51 yards. But remember, that trick play when the game was over, that was like all his receiving yards in the week 1 game last year. So really has not gotten loose against the Bucs in the passing game. In the run game, there's been like 1 or 2 plays maybe, but it has not been anything dominant against Tampa Bay. They've done a really good job on him, Devin White and Levante David, and I think they aren't going to do anything special with their safeties. I think they're just going to play it with those two like they have because it's worked. Those guys got to make tackles and make stops in space. That'll be the key, but and they got to recognize things too because the screen game is a big part of this offense.
Yeah, it really is. And there's also going to be some wrinkles, right? I mean, Sean Payton, he's a gadget guy. And again, the Saints only scored 20 points in that divisional playoff game. 7 of those came off of that trick pass play from Winston to Tre'Quan Smith. So that's kind of the challenge if you're Todd Bowles, is to expect the unexpected. And sometimes that can work against you a little bit, because if you have a coach that you expect, a trick play, a gadget play from, it can have you playing on your heels a little bit, right? And the Buccaneers, they want to play fast and aggressive, but they have to do so in a very opportunistic way, because Sean Payton will invite you in. He'll want that pass rush, and you'll see an end around, a reverse, a pass off of a reverse, a halfback pass. Kamara's done that before, screen plays. So you really have got to be disciplined. And I think that the Buccaneers tackling, which has really been hit or miss in the open field, this is the game where the tackling has to be top notch, because Kamara can make you miss. He can slip tackles. He's got enough size where he can break some tackles. But some of the guys that they have, Callaway is a faster guy. Deontay Harris, if he plays, we'll see about the hamstring. He is small. He's very fast. He's a Jalen Darden type player, although he's more accomplished so far. Troutman is he's a somewhat of an athletic tight end. He's not like Jimmy Graham in his prime by any means, but I think they've had some slower tight ends. There's you've got.
Even the guys that aren't fast get open vertically because of the concepts. He's not fast.
Tre'Quan Smith has got the speed to get deep, although he only had 3 catches. Or actually, was targeted 3 times, had 1 catch for 11 yards. And I think it wasn't it him that
receiver?
What's that?
You mean Jameis's favorite?
That's what receiver? I'm saying. Yeah, didn't they get into it a little bit on Monday night on the sidelines?
I don't know if they got into it so much as Tre'Quan Smith caught some verbal hands. Imagine though if Brady had blown up on a guy like that and screamed.
I know.
Be like the national story for a week.
Oh,
Jameis goes
easy.
Ballistic, and there's nothing. The next day, like, you could barely find it on Twitter. It was incredible.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, he laid into Tre'Quan Smith pretty good, and Tre'Quan Smith just coming back from injury looked completely like he did not want to be out there the other night. I don't know what the story was there, but it was not fun for him.
Exactly.
We'll see what that. I think Callaway's a good player, but the rest of the group, especially Deontay Harris's speed, can change things. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think that right now the process for the Saints, you're looking at, I don't know how much it changes offensively. They're not going to try to all of a sudden be something they aren't. They know they don't have a chance unless they can create some trick plays and play action deep shots and be able to run the football like that. Feels like who they are, and it feels like they're going to stick with that, especially because the Bucs defense, they've been good when they've played horrible offenses.
Right.
And, we'll see in this one, I guess. I don't know what to believe about the Bucs defense.
John, here's 2 points I want to make about this game. I think that special teams, the Buccaneers really have got to do a good job of winning on special teams and not allowing the Saints to flip the field, whether it's in the kicking game or the return game. I think that's an area that the Saints have had an advantage of over Tampa Bay, and that helps set up their offense. The other thing is, and to the point about making Jameis play hero ball, it's interesting because I said this about Tom Brady. Tom Brady, 22-year-old, I should say 22 seasons in the league, right? 44 years old. He has been there and done that, John. He has won Super Bowls. He's lost Super Bowls. He's won cold weather games. He's won in warm weather. He has won more games in the playoffs and in the regular season than any other quarterback. He's seen every type of defense thrown, every type of pass, every type of route. The one thing that Tom Brady had never done before until this year was have a homecoming, was to play his former team. And when he did that, we saw some of those passes sail a little bit, and maybe it was the weather conditions with the rain up there in New England, but he got a little amped up. I think the atmosphere got to him. Now, the difference this year is this is a home game for the Saints. It's also on Halloween, right? It's a later game, so there's going to be plenty of tailgating. That Superdome crowd is going to be rocking and raucous, and there is going to be a revenge factor for the Saints in this game for how they ended Drew Brees' career, the Bucs did, in that divisional playoff game, and ended the Saints' I think, their run as the NFC South champions. For the Saints to win the division again, they've got to beat the Buccaneers. It's got to go through Tampa. They've got to beat the Buccaneers. This is a must-win game for the Saints. But more importantly, Jameis Winston has had 2 games against his former team in mop-up duty, handing off the ball, completing 1 pass in that 38-3 blowout win in Tampa on Sunday Night Football, and also that the cameo appearance where he had that trick play touchdown in the divisional playoff, or not divisional, but yeah, it was a divisional playoff game. But this is his first time as a starting quarterback against his former team. He's going to want to show up. He's going to want to show out. He's going to want to eat a W after this game. And I just wonder, with Jameis's penchant for getting too amped up, we saw it for years in Tampa. He's done a pretty good job of keeping his emotions in check and playing that system ball that has him throwing 13 touchdowns and only 3 picks. But John, is this the game where he comes out a little juiced up, amped up, and those passes start to sail a little bit in the first quarter because he is kind of geeked up? Is he going to have some overthrows where Antoine Winfield's going to just get some gifts playing center field? I think that could happen.
Yeah, it could happen. I mean, like I said, there's not a whole lot in terms of the 6-game sample size we have with the Saints to be able to hang your hat on, except the fact that they just really haven't beat themselves. Even as long as he's held the ball, the protection's been so good that he's only been sacked 11 times, 9th best in the NFL, and they've only had 6 turnovers, and he's only had 3 picks. And so, those things all lend themselves to winning football. They just haven't beaten themselves. That's been the biggest key. They're 7th best in the league in penalties. So they've been played pretty disciplined football. They played very conservative football outside of here and there, taking a shot off play action. They've picked and choose their moments very well. They've hit a couple of those, like I said, 4 40-plus yard plays when your defense is balling out. That will help. And so they've kind of done enough. Every red zone opportunity. What did I say 2 weeks ago? I said they were 13 of 14 in the red zone. Yeah. I said that has to regress. Nobody's ever 93% in the red zone. The best offenses in the league are typically, are lately in the 65 to 71, 72% range. That's the best offenses in the league. Saints don't. That's not going to be their ceiling. So you're talking about a group that's going to regress pretty fast. And look, already that happened. Seattle, they were 1 for 4. One of those is a red zone kneel down at the end of the game. Yeah. I wish they wouldn't count those, but still 1 for 3 in that area of the field. I mean, there was an open touchdown there off a screen. Jameis I've never seen this. I've never seen a quarterback try to tuck it and run when he knows the 3 unblocked guys are coming to him because it's a screen, especially when he has the touchdown. I mean, it was a walk-in. It was a walk-in. On Monday night. I never seen that. So those things are going to happen and regress when you don't have elite players in your offense. And so that will happen. They won't be able to, right now they're 29th in yards, 17th in scoring. Yeah. One of those things is going to have to give because you can't stay 29th in yards and be 17th in scoring, even 17th in scoring. You're going to drop at 1.
John, Nate Pitts asks, Bucs will be I shouldn't say ask, he says, Bucs will be dancing on IG Live this weekend, eating their W's. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I went to mybookie.ag to see if there was a prop bet that if the Bucs win, they will be eating some W's in honor of Jameis. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't find that prop bet. But what I did find is the Bucs are minus 5.5 against the Saints. So they're favored in this game. And the best thing about going to MyBookie, John, is they got the NBA lock of the season. Now, you might be saying, okay, it's NBA season. This is a football program. Who cares? Whatever. Well, there's some NBA fans out there. John's a big NBA fan. But it doesn't matter if you're an NBA fan because if you're a MyBookie customer or you're thinking about it, now is the time to get in on the lock of the season. What's the lock of the season? A lock, simply put, is a bet that you can't lose. And the MyBookie NBA lock of the season this week, and you better do it before Friday's game against the Denver Nuggets and the Dallas Mavericks. When you bet on either team to score this Friday, you win. It's that's simple.
Wow, that's 100%er.
It's 100%er. The maximum bet is $25. So when you go to MyBookie, bet $25, you're going to win $25. MyBookie does this for their customers about 4 to 6 times per year. You might have remembered when the Buccaneers and the Cowboys played on Monday night or on Thursday night to start the season. They had a lock of the season there. When hockey season started with the Seattle Kraken's Las Vegas Golden Knights game, they had a lock of the season there. If either team scores a goal, you win. So take advantage of this, MyBookie customers. Bet on the NBA lock of the season. Place your bet. If either team scores, you win. It's that easy. Get paid Friday, then wake up Saturday and throw down on UFC 267. This weekend, MyBookie is also giving all of the users a $100 risk-free wager on the light heavyweight championship fight between Blachowicz and Teixeira. So don't wait. Head to mybookie.ag now. Use the promo code PEWTER and get in on the lock of the season for the NBA. That's promo code PEWTER. It's a lock. Get your season started with a win. You'll thank me later. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
Yeah, love it. I think it's great stuff, and I'll be betting on that for sure because I need a win, and that's a guarantee.
That's a guarantee. It's free $25.
That's right. I love it. The couple of things I want to touch on with this matchup, we talked about Kamara a little bit and how much of a difference maker that he is for the Saints, but I think you're right on that it's more so in the passing game. That's where he's provided them these significant outlets, ability to run after the catch. It's a screen game. It's all of those things. Probably the best balance of any player in the league. Just unbelievable how he's able to absorb contact. And you mentioned tackling, and you said the Bucs are going to have to tackle well. Well, this game is an interesting battle of significant weaknesses. The Bucs are 28th in the NFL in missed tackles. That's on the bottom end of it. 53. It's bad. They have allowed their 31st in yards after catch allowed this season. So they are giving it up after the catch at a pretty great rate. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with the fact that the average depth of target against this team is just over 6.5 yards, which is third shallowest in the NFL. So teams are not throwing the ball down the field against them. They're throwing underneath where there's typically going to always be more yak anyway. And they're also throwing against the Bucs more than they are passing. So there's some of that is built into the yak allowed, but they have allowed too much yards after catch this season.
They have,
bottom line. The Saints are one of the worst teams in the NFL in yards after catch. That makes no sense to me.
That's without Michael Thomas too.
That makes their 4-2 start just even more bonkers to me, Scott, because they're 528 yards after the catch this season, 31st in the NFL in yards after catch. The Bucs are first in the NFL in yards after catch.
Yeah.
What world are we living in? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the league leading yak team at midseason, and the Saints, who have lived off yak for years, are second to last in the NFL. It shows how much the Saints off. They're not, by the way, they're not second to last in yak because they're totally horrible at it.
Right.
They're because they never throw the football. That's why.
Yes.
And you know, obviously they've also had a game less than most teams, but they just don't throw the ball compared to other teams. I mean, right now, I know that having a game less than some of these other teams matters, John, but they've thrown the ball about 30 less times than the Bears, who are there's
not a
team.
wide receiver with more than 16 catches in New Orleans. Marquez Callaway has got 16 catches for 254 yards and 3 touchdowns. Kamara is the leading receiver with 25 catches for 241 yards. So they don't have a receiver over 300 yards. They don't have any receivers that have more than 16 catches. I'm talking about wide receivers. Same thing with the tight end position. It's stunning to see a typical gunslinger quarterback like Jameis Winston have 151 pass attempts. He's only completed 89 passes, and he's only hitting 58.9%, which is it's not great when you're talking about a quarterback that is checking down so much to Alvin Kamara, right? You take away those, I wonder what his completion percentage is, because Kamara will catch a healthy amount of those screen passes, swing passes out of the backfield, et cetera, John. That's kind of an amazing statistic.
And everybody is caught up with the fact that Jameis can throw the deep ball, and I already mentioned it, Scott, but he does throw it, but we talk about the ones that it's pretty, but I mean, he's not accurate down the field either.
No.
Like he is 38% adjusted completion percentage this season on 20
and he struggled there in Tampa.
Throws. So 20 plus air yard throws, 38% adjusted, Scott. That means that's counting the drops that he's had down the field as catches. So it's taking the blame off of that for him, and he's still only 38%. That is 24th in the NFL this season.
Right.
So now he can hit one, but
that's right.
It's not efficient.
It's a rare bird when it happens. Just to put that in perspective, and granted, keep in mind, Tom Brady is the leading passer in the NFL, right? So we're now comparing these two quarterbacks. Winston, who's thrown the fewest amount of passes with the league's leading passer, but Tom Brady has 203 completions to Jameis's 89. Tom Brady has 303 attempts to Jameis Winston's 151. So Brady's literally throwing the ball twice as much. And he's completing way more passes. He's completing 60 7% of his passes. And he's taken so many deep shots, which is just an incredible completion percentage.
Yeah, I thought Bruce Arians answered the question perfectly today. What's the difference between Jameis from 2019 to now, or I guess from the time he was with the Bucs to now? And he said he's throwing about 15 less times a game. They're playing with the lead. We didn't have that many leads, and he said he's playing well, but he's just basically like this. He's not being asked to do anything, like in terms of being able to lead the team. Like that's not his role this year. And to be honest, the fact that he's bought in on that is to his credit, and the fact that he hasn't screwed that up right now is to his credit, and we'll see if that can last the whole season. You know, are the Saints serious contenders if he doesn't take a huge leap, or if he doesn't I don't think they are, unless he would take a huge leap forward and all of a sudden they would trust him and he would become the player who's drafted to be. But can they screw you up if you make mistakes, if you commit penalties, you commit turnovers, you take sacks, if you do those things? Yes, the Saints can screw you up because they're opportunistic. Yes, it only takes one or two plays for them to score an offense because they can they can find those deep balls just schematically. They protect really well, and that Jameis can hold the ball for over 3 seconds, Scott, and only been sacked 11 times this year. And he can, because of that, like anybody, it's hard to cover that long. You know what I mean?
That's right.
On average. So yeah, that's the tricky part with this offense, is that the offensive line, even without Pete, who isn't great, it's still good enough that they can do things even if their quarterback isn't great, just because he's going to have a lot of time to be able to make things happen. And that's tough to defend if you're DBs. And if you blitz a ton, what's Sean Payton going to do? He's going to throw the screens right behind game all day. So makes it tricky. This is a tricky one for Todd Bowles.
There's no doubt about it. But, you talked about tricks. Halloween is trick or treat, so we've got that whole atmosphere going there. But you're going to get a lot more treats than tricks when you invest your money with Immuni Financial.
At Immuni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Dude, congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you. And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you?
Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track, so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Immuni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
Managing your family's wealth means more to Immuni Financial than simply allocating your assets. It means legacy planning, brokerage and advisory services, retirement accounts, college savings accounts, and insurance services. With 40 years of experience in the Tampa Bay area, let Immuni Financial help you plan ahead and stay ahead. Call Immuni Financial at 1-800-868-6864 or visit Immuni.com. John had a great call this week with David Polkinghorn, who is my Immuni representative. And what I love about David is I don't have to call him. He calls me with updates on stocks, mutual funds, how my portfolio is performing. And it's that type of personal touch and service that I've really come to appreciate. And I just highly recommend, if you have not taken full advantage of your retirement services, if you have kids coming up and you want to, you got younger kids, they're going to be needing cars, college funds, that kind of thing. It's never too late to start saving. And the more important thing is you want to grow your money. And I trust Immuni Financial, and I'm encouraging you to give them a call or visit their website and find out more information.
Scott, the key to this game to me, as we get ready to wrap this thing up, the key to this game to me is whether they can get pressure on Jameis Winston. He was not good against Seattle, but he was good enough against Seattle because the defense balled out and because Seahawks couldn't touch him. They just didn't touch him. I mean, he had all day to throw the football. And he got sacked a couple times, Scott.
That's right.
He got sacked 3 times, but it was all on him. That's how long he had to throw the football. And you saw Brandon Thorne tweeting out clips the other day just saying the Saints O-line was just dominant in that game. Yeah. The Seahawks are a horrible pass rush team. The Bucs are obviously better.
Right.
They blitz a ton. Seattle does not. Seattle also doesn't get rushed with 4. So it's a very different matchup. Still, that's a significant part of this game. This has not been typically Shaq Barrett or Jason Pierre-Paul's best game is against the Saints because they have 2 of the best tackles, probably 2 of the – Ramczyk is up there with Wirfs. These are the 2 best right tackles in the game with Lane Johnson going through his stuff this season and being injured a lot. The 2 best right tackles in the game will play in this one, in Tristan Wirfs and Ryan Ramczyk for the Saints. Teron Armstead's probably a top 5, top 3 maybe left tackle in the league. And Donovan Smith's playing at a really high level, playing like a top 10 left tackle this season for sure. And so those guys are going to be a big part of how this game's won or lost on both sides. But, as we're talking about the Bucs defense today, Can they finally find a way to win those matchups, Scott? And does Joe Tryon-Shoyinka's presence give them more flexibility to play different fronts and move guys around and put Jason Pierre-Paul inside and do things like that maybe they didn't do before?
I remember going back to that week 1 game when the Buccaneers got 1 sack against Drew Brees, and it came on a 3rd down when JPP was rushing inside. And so I think that you're going to have to either have Joe Tryon or JPP lining up inside. And I think the key is getting the Saints to some 3rd and long situations. The problem is on 3rd and 5, John, that's a screen down for New Orleans. They're going to invite the blitz. They want to invite pressure because they're going to throw right over your head and hit Kamara on 3rd and 5, and he'll turn it into 12 or 14 yards, pick up the 1st down, and then you're still on the field. But getting the Saints into some really long situations, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, getting them behind the sticks, I think that will allow Todd Bowles to do some more creative things. So the emphasis is going to be on stopping the run. And like you've mentioned, Kamara's not been great, but the Bucs defense against the run in the last 2 games has not been great, right? They got by with it with the Eagles because they were playing some kind of garbage time defense. They had a big 28-7 lead. They were giving up some run just to chew the clock, playing some prevent defense, if you will. But last week was a different story, right? You had 91 yards by Khalil Herbert, the Bears running back. The rookie had a really good first half. They did a better job shutting him down in the second half, but still gave up 100 yards. That's very rare that you get a 100-yard rusher against the Todd Bowles defense. I think it was the right wake-up call at the right time. If you want to win against the Saints, you do have to stop the run, but more importantly, getting the Saints into some of those 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12 situations to where you can bring pressure and not have to be as cognizant about giving up the screen passes that are going to come on 3rd and 4s and 3rd and 5s instead.
That's right. Yeah. And most importantly, have Levante David back in the lineup.
Yeah.
That will help a lot.
He settles things down quite a bit.
You mentioned the defensive line there. Vita Vea. Andres Pete goes out of the lineup, and Pete has some struggles, but most of Pete's struggles are mobility related. He is a big, hulking guard.
Yes.
Calvin Throckmorton is going to be his replacement.
Yeah.
Here's a line from Calvin Throckmorton's scouting report from the Draft Network's Deontay Harris, who is a former NFL scout. He says he is a waist bender that needs to improve his flexibility. He plays high and lacks good balance. He's on the ground a lot for a player with the type of upside that he has. I believe his skill set is probably best suited on the interior, but he may not bend well enough. He struggles to get out of his stance and get to a cutoff. He doesn't play with good length on the perimeter. He struggles to engage at the second level in the run game. And there's some good things listed about him too, but it's more about his upside. He has gone better. He played well the other night against Seattle. Right. Vita Vea is a different beast. And the other interesting thing, Eric McCoy, the Saints center, is a good player, but he is one of the smaller centers in the league. And so those two now will be charged with Vea. Vea has played well against the Saints. He didn't play last year in the other regular season game or in the playoff game against the Saints. Played well in week 1 against the Saints last year. I think that's one of the spaces that this matchup can be won by is where Vea is playing. I mean, he's already in the run game. It's a given. I think that you're going to see Vea win. The Saints will run away from him almost assuredly, as they usually do. But in the pass game, this is a big matchup for him, man, because we talked about the tackles, but the Saints are suspect on the interior. He was drafted in the first round for matchups like this. You've got to be the terror. You've got to be the guy that forces Winston off his spot, makes mistakes happen as the interior rusher. Be the guy you were in week 1 against Dallas early in the season that we saw you dominating guys who couldn't hold up. Do that against Throckmorton, and I think it goes a long way toward the Bucs winning. Right,
and I think you're exactly right, John. And for guys like JPP and Shaq Barrett and even Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, if they're going to get some sacks in this game, it's probably not going to come from beating those tackles cleanly, right? What's going to happen is they're going to get some pressure up the middle from Vita Vea, from Ndamukong Suh, pushing the pocket, and then forcing Jameis, who loves to roll outside. But we've seen it here in Tampa so many times. Donovan Smith would do his job, right? Or even DeMar Dotson would do his job. And you would have a situation where Jameis Winston would roll right into some sacks because he's trying to escape the pocket. And so I think if you can get Jameis into some of those bad habits, I think that you can really affect him as a passer, get him to take some of those really bad sacks, get him to hold on to the ball where he's going to make some risky throws because he's not going to throw the ball out of bounds. That clock's going to be ticking in his head. If you can get Jameis Winston to revert to Jameis Winston of old, of Buccaneer Jameis Winston, I think the Saints will be on the losing end of the stick in a very bad way. This could be a blowout for the Buccaneers if Todd Bowles' defense gets that to happen.
Yeah.
What do you think Bowles' primary coverage is going to be? He's going to mix up a lot, John, but what do you think is going to be at the end of the day? Cover 1, cover 3, cover 2. How is he going to play against the Saints?
Well, he's played a little bit more man recently, so maybe we will see some cover 1, but I would imagine he'll still it's Jameis, right? Like the zone defense has always been the thing, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine we're still going to see a good bit of that and make him throw into zones and make him beat zones with his eyes and do the advanced nuanced things that, quarterbacks with great arms can beat man, can do those kind of things with great arms and great accuracy. Quarterbacks who can think quickly can beat zones. And that's just never been Jameis's strong suit. So if you can play good zone defense behind the pass rush and then can also win one-on-ones up front, it's a great recipe for you. I'm just not convinced that the Bucs, I think if they're going to win those one-on-ones, it comes from Vea. I think it's so important that he be a dominant player in this game. I think he's the most important player for them defensively because he has to win those matchups, because even if it happens once or twice with Shaq Barrett and JPP, it's not going to happen all game. They're both good players, but Teron Armstead and Ryan Ramczyk are just straight up better than those guys.
Yeah.
And so you have to have Vea plus a combination of Winston being inconsistent in his pocket movement that helps you maybe get some pressure production or some easier lanes to the quarterback. Those things have to be a big part of this game plan. And they're going to rush with 5. They may not send the house, but they're going to send 5 on occasion. And, Devin White, make a play, man. Doesn't have a sack yet this season. 1 tackle for loss, no picks.
Yep.
Come on. This is the week, man. This is
the week where he needs to be splashy. He really needs to revert back to that playoff Devin White that we saw. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you. I think that the 2 players on defense that have got to step up this week are Vita Vea. Totally agree, John. Sold me on that. And also Devin White, especially covering Alvin Kamara. And when he does blitz Jameis, which I think he's going to get a couple of A-gap blitzes, they love that tandem inside with Vita Vea occupying the guard or center, and then having Devin White come, screaming through the A-gap. Devin White's got to get home and make those opportunities count. Mm-hmm. So I think those are the 2 key players. John, you said Vita Vea. Who's the other player you think really needs to step up? Is it Devin White or somebody else?
No, it's definitely Devin White. It's no question Devin White. For the reasons you said, the run game, he's got to be better. When teams have run against the Bucs, it hasn't been because the defensive line's been at fault the last 2 weeks. It's been because the second level's at fault. Some of it's just coverage. They're dropping out, and they were playing coverage against the Eagles on a few runs. I put it in my Bucs briefing. He still got carried like 30 yards by Jason Kelsey in the Eagles game. But he has to be better all phases. When the Bears were like the one team you knew were going to still try to run it, and that should have been the game where he was licking his chops, and he was just bad in that game. That was the one where, okay, finally a team that's running again. You can get back to what you were doing better at the end of last season, and he wasn't good at that either. So make your mark on this game with at least a splash play if you're not going to be super consistent. I think that's those are the 2 most important guys, no question. 2 of their more recent young draft picks.
John, you mentioned your Bucs briefing column. It just gets better and better and better every week. Folks, this is appointment reading. John, I told you in a private phone call, this is no paid promotion or endorsement or anything. I'm being honest. If there's one article, one column on the Buccaneers I'm reading from anybody on any website, it's literally John's Bucs briefing here on PeterReport.com every Wednesday. It is appointment reading, folks. If you have not read it, make sure you read it. Go back and read last week's, even though the Bears game already happened. Just so much analysis and breakdowns. You literally spend about all day Tuesday doing it, and it shows up. You've got the right film clips. You educate it. I always tell you and our Peter Report staff, I said, I'm a Buccaneer expert. I've been doing this for 26 years. I don't know it all. I don't know anybody that covers the game of football that knows it all. Even coaches will tell you they don't know it all, right? That's why they steal from each other. You borrow from the best, right? There's always innovation in football. But I'm telling you, if I can learn something from reading Bucs briefing about what the Bucs are doing or not doing to help or hurt themselves, I know that our readers are going to learn stuff, and I learn something every week, sometimes usually more than one thing. And your Bucs briefing today was packed with great information about Devin White, about the Bucs run game, about Tristan Wirfs, just phenomenal reading. So folks, Wednesday mornings, PeterReport.com. Check out John's Bucs briefing. Phenomenal job every week.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Scott. It's fun. It's been fun to write about some of this stuff, especially the run game this week. And I'm looking forward to talking about that more tomorrow on the show with Matt Matera, who is
That's
heading
right.
up our Pewter Report Bowling League over at Pin Chasers. Scott, Matt is heading that up. And when does that start, Scott?
Starts tonight, 6:30 down at Pin Chasers. And listen, folks, you've probably heard Matt talk about Pin Chasers before. And I've been going to these bowling events, whether it's our charity events or whether it's making an appearance during the bowling leagues. Pin Chasers, the one in Midtown, it's off of Armenia. That's where we have the Pewter Report bowling leagues. The bowling leagues are fun. It's where Buccaneer fans come together, and we've even had some Buccaneer players in the past in our leagues. Right now with the COVID protocols, that's tough to kind of get Buccaneer players there. But I'm sure maybe in the spring league, we can get some of those guys. Donovan Smith's a big bowler. O.J. Howard's a big bowler. We've had some of those players come to our events in the past. The food is amazing. You would not think that Pin Chasers would have great food, but they do. It's not bowling alley food. It's restaurant quality food. Their pizza is actually top notch. They've got some great salads, chicken dishes, everything. So it's 6:30. Every Wednesday night, Matt Matera from Pewter Report's going to be there. He's heading it up. I'm sure John and I will probably be making some appearances, doing a little bit of bowling and bringing our families down for that. So it's a fun time. Join the bowling league. You get when you join, you get I think it's a bowling ball. Don't you get a bowling ball or a pin, something like that? John, do you know what the details are? I think Matt knows that.
On what you win?
Well, it's when you join the league, you get you
let's
get
see if it's
something.
in this article.
It might be in the article, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm talking
a
about
free bowling ball at the end of the
Okay,
season.
that's what I thought. Free bowling ball, exactly.
And you
So-
can get a customized Buccaneers logo on your ball, or
How
a
about
bowling
that?
pin, or a bowling pin. So you might
Yeah, or the bowling pin. So you can get
Wow.
one or the other. It's at
Awesome.
the end of the season. It's a great thing. So basically, you're paying to have fun, and then you're getting something for your money back at the end of the season for taking part in this. Visit pinchasers.net, or just go down there. You can sign up tonight and take part in the bowling and the fun. They've got bowling lanes in Zephyr Hills, Midtown Tampa, and Veterans Tampa. But the Pewter Report Bowling League takes place at Midtown Tampa, 6:30 Wednesday nights. Get down there and have dinner. Bring the family and have some great fun over at Pin Chasers.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely do. Give the 5 and the 2-year-old a little night out. Get out of Pin Chasers at some point in the next couple of months. Yeah, it'll be fun. Tomorrow on the show, Matt and I are going to go through this just like we did today, but we're going to go through it for looking at the Bucs offense against the Saints defense. And then I'm going to give my prediction tomorrow on the show, and Matt's going to give his prediction tomorrow. So I'm taking another day to think and pray about this thing. But you won't be on the show tomorrow, so you got to give us your prediction tonight, Scott. Or today, whatever time it is.
All right. Well, here's my prediction, and it might sound familiar. John, I think the Buccaneers have got to get back to scoring 30 points per game, not just at home, where they've scored 40.5 points per game. They got to do it on the road. That's something they have not done this year.
Mm-hmm.
But, John, you go back and look last year, right? 47 points against the Lions on the road, 31 points against the Falcons on the road, and then at least 30 points every single game on the road. Washington, New Orleans, Green Bay in the NFC Championship game. They were the away team, right, for the Super Bowl, John. They scored 31 points in their own house as the away team against the Chiefs. So I think the Buccaneers need to get 30 points on the board to win, and I think they will. And I think the score is going to be 30-20. Tampa Bay over New Orleans, a very familiar score. That was what happened when the Bucs went down to the Saints. And I think it's time. We talked about it after that game, John, back in January. The Buccaneers are now the bully of the NFC South. I think they rip the crown away from the Saints, and they win 30-20 against Jameis Winston and the New Orleans Saints.
Oh, 30-20. Wow. Okay.
Yep.
I can vibe with the 30-20 score. This one's tough for me. I'm not going to give my prediction today. I'm going to give it tomorrow on the show with Matt. But yeah, this one's tough for me. I all the negatives I said about the Saints offense, I still feel like the Bucs defense is vulnerable, and I think Sean Payton knows them better than anybody, and he knows where those vulnerabilities are. And I don't think that it's going to matter who the quarterback is quite as much as it did against Chicago and the Eagles and the Dolphins. I think all those games, it just wasn't enough. I think the Bucs or the Saints can find ways to win even with a quarterback who isn't enough. So it scares me a little bit, this game matchup, and then we'll talk about the Saints defense tomorrow. I think they have a couple of players who are just phenomenal and really change the game when they play.
Yes.
So it's going to be fun to talk about that and break that down with Matt. Just want to give people a little sneak peek. On Sunday, we've got the pregame show starting at 3:30 again, going up until game time. Then through the game, you're going to have Paul Atwell and I with analysis, breakdowns, X's and O's, scheme thought, all of that throughout Bucs Saints during the game. So you can jump in there with us, pull us up on YouTube, watch the game, just watch it on mute or whatever, and watch along with us as we break down everything that happens. And then you're going to have the Peter post-game podcast after that. Then later in the week, you're going to have Monday. We'll break down the game like we always do. We'll have the Monday show next week. Then the bye week starts, right? So Wednesday and Thursday, we are going to be focusing a ton on free agency, the upcoming free agency for the Bucs and the upcoming offseason for the Bucs. We'll look at all their free agents. There's tons of them. We are going to go actually through the Pewter Report staff. We're going to have everybody on the show, try to have everybody on the show next Wednesday, a week from today, and go through the staff and try to give predictions about what we think is going to happen. Will this player be back? Will Leonard Fournette be back with the Bucs next season? Will Antonio Brown? We're going to literally give our predictions as of midseason, obviously, give us some grace, but we're going to give our predictions for what we think is going to happen in the offseason with the Bucs. Then on Thursday, we're going to talk with Brad Spielberger of Pro Football Focus, who is a salary cap and contract expert.
Love Brad.
Yeah. He's been on the show a bunch of times before, talks to more NFL people than like any of these salary cap guys that I know. Yeah. So he knows this stuff, and he'll know what's realistic. Can the Bucs bring back these? We'll have him answer all our tough questions. Right. Can the Bucs bring back everybody again, Brad? We'll have him answer all the questions on the show. So you guys will come out of next week with a much greater understanding of what the Bucs face in the offseason, what's realistic in terms of them bringing who they can bring back. We'll look at each player's specific situation on those shows. We'll break it all down. Hopefully you come out of Thursday and you come into that bye weekend with your mind either at ease or upset, whatever you come out of the shows with. We'll see. But you know a little bit more about what's in front of the Bucs and have a little better idea of the future when we go into that weekend, and you can enjoy that Sunday of football without stressing about a Bucs game before we head into the week before the Washington game. So that's what's coming up on the Pewter Report show, Pewter Report podcast. We appreciate y'all for jumping in here and for listening and for watching with us as you always do. Y'all are the best. Support us every single week, and we appreciate that. So until tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, thanks so much for listening to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.